Hey folks, how you doing? From Donny Hathaway Live. Hey folks, how you doing? Hopefully you're hearing all of that. I assume you are. I'm going to pull this up here just to see. Yeah. It's a wet, miserable day here in Wellington, New Zealand. Hence the jacket I've just got back. I'll explain what I was out doing. It's pretty cool. You may have noticed. Let's see what's happening. It's saying it's live. Can you hear everything okay? You hearing everything? Let me just check. Yeah, looks fine. So I've set up the camera here in a different position. It's a little more straighter on. I like this. This is cool. I like that the camera's kind of out of the way too. I can just kind of do this quickly. So you're probably wondering what this guitar is. Let me know in the chat. Is everything coming through clearly? Can you hear me? Obviously, the microphone probably could go a bit closer. That'll probably sound a bit better. Yeah, I just picked this up. It's a Japanese Strat from the 90s. It's a 1994 62 reissue Japanese Strat, one of the Fuji Gen ones. Yeah, I don't know much about it other than I kind of wasn't planning on getting a Strat, and then I had that Ultra here for a little while, which, you know, very cool modern kind of Strat, and I started going on a quest kind of looking for some Strats, because I don't actually have a Strat here, believe it or not. Like, you know, I mean, I've got that Ibanez AZ that you can probably see right there, which is kind of like a modern Strat. It's a very, very modern sounding guitar, but I wanted something kind of a little more vintagey, which is where this comes in, right? This is made in 1994, I believe. I haven't had the neck off yet to have a look, but that's what they said. The date definitely checks out for 1994. It's in mint condition. There's nothing on it. Considering it's 30 plus years old, it is mint condition. So it's really warm. I tried all the ones in the shop, but this was by far the warmest sounding. by far. Oh, whoops. Don't put that on the volume pedal. Yeah, so it was by far the warmest sounding one, so that's kind of what I dig. It needs some stuff done to it. It's got the vintagey small frets, but they're like brand new. This guitar's barely been played. It looks to me like someone bought it and put it in their closet and they probably played it once a year. You know, so it's just been allowed to kind of age naturally. I suspect it's a polyurethane finish. It kind of looks and feels like it, but it doesn't feel like it's thick and heavy, so that's fine by me. I'd rather it's a nitro finish. I think nitro finishes do sound better. But nice warm sounding Strat. It does have the vintage radius, doesn't bother me that much. It's not choking out. See if I turn the amp off. A little bit there. A little bit there. It's got Ernie Ball strings on it, so I'm going to have to change it for the strings I'd normally use, which are Elixir 10 to 46 on this. But I believe a lot of these had American parts on them. People would, the Americans would send over parts, and we know that the 90s Strats from America were not good, right? A lot of them were crap. So, there was some good, like with every era, you can find a 70s Les Paul that's good too, right? But a heap of them were not great. And I think the Japanese were the ones that were doing good stuff at that time. So I picked up this guitar. To me, you're going to see it a lot on this channel because I've kind of needed a Strat. The gig I just did last week, I played an orchestra gig with... please let me know in the chat if you're hearing everything okay. Played an orchestra day. We did 2 concerts. We did a big sports award concert. I mentioned that on my channel. And then the following day on the same stage, they had this big stage. We had a 50-piece choir, I think it was, full orchestra, 4 singers, no dancers this year, so that was probably part of the cutbacks because I believe they were financially in a bit of trouble. There was no grand piano this year, so stuff like that were kind of changed, which is fine. That's how it goes. At least the orchestra wasn't cut back, right? It was full orchestra, but no dancers this year, so they but they had a big LED screen still that went from one side of the stage to the other, which we're talking 2 basketball courts wide. It was absolutely massive. It looked incredible. Yeah, so that was the gig, and then we did the same thing the following night, and they called it the Symphony in the Heart, where we had, played basically the same set, but more of a concert setting rather than an awards setting. Because in the awards setting, what we do is we do a lot of chases, where we play songs that are, how do you put it? They're things that, when someone's at the back of the room and they've got to come to the front of the room, you play like a vamp type thing. So one we did that was kind of cool was... George Benson thing was one of the chases. Another one was Payback by James Brown, which has boom. Haven't got my wah at the moment. So on and then. That was one of the chases. Stuff like that. It was really cool. There was a Prince song in there. This sort of stuff, which was cool, Josh, how are you, man? He says, have you played old 80s Tokai Strats, amazing instruments? Yeah, they were. A buddy of mine, Lance Sewer, who I played a lot with when I was a young fella starting out in this game, he had a Tokai Strat. He was a big influence on me when I was learning to play, because he was really the session guy in town. He had a Tokai Strat that he used he had two 1x12 cabs, and he had a Mesa Boogie Triaxis power amp system, one of those with a some effects and all kinds of stuff. And you know, got a killer sound. That Tokai Strat sounded amazing. It had EMGs in it, so it sort of, you know, was kind of more Lukather-esque, if you will, that sort of thing. But yeah, those Tokai Strats are great. I believe that Tokai made a lot of these Japanese Fenders, right? Tokai, Fujigen, and there was another company that was involved with it, Duroco or something like that. I don't know which. This one here would have been, because it's 1994, would have been the Fujigen factory, which I think, because Tokai and Greco, if I believe, were the companies that were really competing with Fender USA. And so Fender that's where Fender started Fender Japan to try and they bought out Greco, I believe, and got their workers to come and make these guitars. And the Grecos were good, and same with the Tokais. The Tokais were probably better, I think. So the things this guitar's going to need done to it, the tone control does not work on the bridge pickup. Right, that old. So if I go here, it's a bit scratchy, it needs something in it. That's where you want it, right? So I'm going to have to get that rewired to be that tone control just for there, and then that one for those two. Right, that's really what you want. It needs new strings. I'm going to put my strings on it, which I usually use Alexa 11s. It's a bit scratchy in some of this, so I'll just give that a clean out. It does feel a little kind of hard to play, but that could be the strings too. I mean, I find that regular strings now feel really grippy to me. I'm just so used to Alexas that that's kind of what I use. Getting used to the screw-in tremolo. I haven't had one for years. I grew up as a Strat guy. People probably don't know this because I don't really play Strats much anymore. And I think, you know, when I was starting out in this, like, I was really a Strat guy. Like, that was me through and through. And the best Strat I've ever had prior to this one, I'm hoping this one will take its place in being the best. But the best one I ever had was an old Yamaha Super Rock and Roller. Interesting guitar because it said Super here really big, and the S was like the Squire S. So people used to always come up to me and they go, "Oh, nice Squire," and I'd be like, "Read it again," and they go, "Oh, it says Super." Yeah, Super Rock and Roller by Yamaha. And that guitar was killer. It was made of a Japanese wood that was kind of like ash, I believe, but all nickel hardware, great pickups. That thing was killer. I sold it when we went to Europe, and I regretted it. I know the guy that's got it, and a bunch of times I've offered to buy it back from him for what I paid for it, but he really likes it. He's a bass player, so come on, man, he should have sold it to me. That's where it's at for me. One of the things I've missed is the Strat neck pickup. But my favourite Strat position where I could probably live all night is that one there. Right? It's good for, like, if I want a crunch sound, if I go to the bridge pickup, sounds good, but, right? Go to that one, quiet. I've said it many times, I don't particularly like the Strat single coil in the bridge. I much prefer a tele in that position. But as soon as you put a humbucker in there, which I do like a lot, you lose that position 2 and 4 thing, this thing. And I know you can tap the humbucker, but it doesn't sound the same. Which is why I could just leave a Strat on that and do whole gigs with just that. I mean, it would have been perfect for Want to Dance with Somebody on that gig the other day. Paul Jackson Jr. Yeah, great guitar parts, and that's a quiet setting, but also the neck pickup, like that's the sound of a Strat, right? Neck pickup and then position 2. I could do like that's the sound, right? And the tremolo is a little bit wobbly in there, you know, it's a screw-in trem, but it still seems to work, so whatever. I saw this thing the other day, and it was Umphy McGee, is that what how you say their name? And the guitar player had a little thing that he attached into the bridge that he you know, used it like the wiggle stick. And I was like, man, that's a great idea, because then you don't have the tremolo kind of getting in the way of your controls and stuff. It was just a little thing that sit over here. You just kind of tap it with your finger to use the tremolo. Maybe I should look into one of those. And I'll play a track. This is Dramatic Cinematic Guitar Backing Track in B minor from Jammin' Backing Tracks, who, as many of you will know, I've played along to heaps of this stuff because I really like the tracks. I don't know this one. I've had a quick listen to it to check it wasn't smooth jazz or something like that. That doesn't really suit what I do, and it seems like it's quite a cool track, so let's see where it goes. If you got any questions, fire them in the chat. yeah, just a bit of fun. Kind of predictable line, but you know, I need to turn the level of that one up. It's funny, isn't it, how you know, when you use scenes and stuff in the fractals, which is what I'm using right now. I'm using an FM3, as I always do on my videos here. It just works better because of this microphone. I've talked about this quite a bit, but this microphone would be clipping if I had that amp back there on. It would be like destroying the mic. But disconnect. Okay, I can't change that right now. Though. Any questions? Anything you guys want to know? Could be about playing. To those that are new around here, thank you so much for joining me and being part of this, what I'm doing here. I appreciate it. One thing I find super useful to do too, I don't know if you can hear this right now, but I have reverb on this, right? I always find reverb sounds more intense in my headphones than when I watch these live streams back. I go back and I go, man, there's like no reverb on it, or barely any. And then in my headphones the reverb sounds big. But hopefully you can hear that reverb. But I find it super useful to have a sound like this too. See, it's got that really short reverb, and if I go to one of the tap positions, so if I was to play something like that with that reverb before, the reverb kind of clutters it. This is not dry. It's the same reverb, but all I've done is essentially turn down the length of the reverb, so it's like maybe less than a second long. It almost sounds like slapback in there. And for funk rhythm guitar stuff, especially on those out of phase things, the other thing I've done too is pulled a bit of the mid-range out. Because I find if you're on this sort of sound, and then you go to those out of phase positions, works okay, but sounds like I've got a little bit more volume in that one too. I need to balance the volume. Especially that. Just, that's a sound, isn't it, right? And, you know, it's interesting. I've kind of been thinking about it for a while with the Strat thing because, you know, being a studio guy, a session guy, this is what I do, right? I'm someone who gets booked by other people to back them to. I do a lot of recording work, as you can see by my studio here. So a lot of my time spent in this room, which is fine, you know. But it means that a Strat is one of those things, isn't it? Right, like you just kind of need that sound. And I've been using that one, the AZ. Can I point to? So weird trying to point to that. Right there. That AZ has. Soon it's all coming through. Point to. There we go. The AZ has. It's really a modern sounding Strat. It doesn't have. Because Because it's got a humbucker in there. Yeah, the green one, right there. Well, it's actually it's a funny color because it's actually kind of greeny blue. So it's, in certain light it looks green, in other light it looks whatever. And then you can probably see behind me there's the Paul Reed Smith and the Telecaster and the gig bag. There's other guitars. I have 3 or 4 guitars that sit upstairs too. My acoustic pretty much lives upstairs. My Martin. You know, the Martin. A lot of times I like to play acoustic when I'm at home. It's really good for your playing and stuff like that. So yeah. DJ says nice collection. Thanks. Yeah. They all get used, all of them. The ones that probably don't get used as much are like the I don't even know why I still have my jacket on. I don't need it. It's not cold anymore. I've just been out in the rain. It's awful weather here in Wellington. A bit of a rainstorm come through. That's how it goes. Let's take that off. The ones that don't get used that much are like the 12 string. The 12 string I hardly, maybe once a year I get asked for the 12 string electric. But super handy, and when you do, it just kind of has that thing. So the 12 string electric, it doesn't even have a pickup in it at the moment. I took the pickup out. I need to put that back in. What else doesn't get used? The banjo gets used like maybe once a year, but the banjo's long since played for itself. But all the others, they get used all the time. You know what I mean? DJ says he names his guitars. Yeah, fair enough. I don't. I don't know. Maybe I should. Some people do. Like Steve Vai with Evo, right? Oh, you're in Germany. Cool. Hayden says I have the same AZ in the same color. I love it. Does sound good though, right? Look, I'm not a fan of sunburst guitars anymore. To me, it's like sunburst guitars are kind of plain. The only guitar more plain, I think, than sunburst guitars is a black guitar. Because black kind of, a lot of gigs I do, you're wearing black. Like the gig last week, I had to wear a suit and tie and whole thing. I might post some videos if people are kind of keen to see them. I was thinking I'll do that, but you're wearing black, so the guitar kind of blends into you and then just looks like nothing. It's kind of weird like that, isn't it? But I think Sunburst is probably the second least interesting, but that's the color of this guitar and I liked it, so I actually really was thinking about getting a red guitar, a red Strat, because I'm such a huge David Gilmour fan, and one of my favorite David Gilmour sounds ever is Delicate Sound of Thunder. If you all have seen that concert, go and check it out if you haven't. It's just incredible. And he's playing a red Strat with EMGs in it, and man, that tone, especially right from the beginning. Oh, sorry. Just killer guitar playing. Yeah, Mark Knopfler, there's been lots of them, but I think red Stratus look cool. Maybe one day I'll get this one refinished, who knows. But yeah, that black Les Paul is a studio from the 90s. Those are some of the best Les Pauls that were coming out at the time, because they had the thinner finish and the no binding on the edge. The idea being that, it made it cheaper to produce, but they sound better for it. Thin finishes on instruments, when they're caked in plastic, instruments don't sound as good. You know what I mean? The thinner finish, they resonate. They've got a thing. So it's sort of, yeah, the thin finish for the win. So yeah, that's a Studio Les Paul, and then the Ibanez JSM 100. There's two guitars over here and my bass. There's my Porritt Smith over here, a mandolin and different things. Yeah, so they're all just tools. I like them, but they're tools. You know what I mean? Use them and yeah. So the gig this week, I'm playing a funk gig actually, and I'm going to take this guitar. As part of it was one of the reasons I wanted to stretch. Like I was thinking about this gig, and I was talking with the bass player. He came around. He bought my OC2. I just sold one of those OC2 pedals, and he bought it. And he came around. We had a bit of a chat and catch up, and I was talking about that Ultra Strat because I had the hair at the time. And he goes, and I said, I've kind of been looking for a Strat. And he goes, what? Do you not have one? I was like, no, not really. I got that Squire, which is just a knock-around guitar. It's not. I wouldn't really take that to gigs. It's okay, but it's not great. And then he was like, oh, he goes, so what do you use for funk gigs? And I was like, oh, I'll take the Tally or something else, And he was like, oh, and it made me think, I probably should have a Strat, right? Being such an iconic guitar. This one seems to work quite well at tuning down too. You do lose a bit of top end, but it's not too bad. I actually prefer often to just turn down a Strat a little bit and just have it warm up the tone by using that. DJ says, what do you like playing the most? What do you mean? Like in terms of style of music or guitar, type of guitar do I prefer playing the most? I can answer both of those. Lately it's been the Tally. I've been playing the Tally heaps. I've been really on a path with single coils lately. I find that single coils tend to be more dynamic, right? So yeah, that was partly with this. Style-wise, I consider myself a fusion guitarist. That's what I do. And I kind of hate using that term because as soon as you say fusion, people have kind of already tried to work out what you do. What I mean by fusion in terms of how I perceive it is like jazz but fused with blues and funk. Those are the big ones, right? So you'll hear me often do things like, hang on, let's get a sound. But then alongside that I'll go, you know what I mean? Some kind of almost jazz-ish lick. So you see, even like that, like it was a mixture of blues, but there was like that little rock shreddery sort of lick. So I sort of borrow from all those sort of things. I guess because, I was born in 78, so really my childhood was the 80s. My teenage years were in the 90s. So it's sort of like everything was blended by then. Do you know what I mean? In terms of genre. So I think, I kind of think of myself as a fusion of all of these things. But really, probably my roots are in the blues. And rhythm guitar stuff, I think of funk. Funk is probably some of my favorite music to play. So I think of all these sort of factors, that sort of shape what I do. That's why I have a hard time calling myself a jazz musician, because I don't think of myself as a jazz musician. I can play a lot. I know most of the standards. I do a lot of jazz gigs. But for me, a jazz musician is a musician of a certain era. And in a lot of ways, I think if you're going to call yourself a jazz musician, you really need to be playing some version of bebop in there. And I don't do that. I just draw on bebop lines, but I'm not really playing bebop. But then I think jazz kind of also means improvising. And that's what I do. I'm an improviser. So that's why I kind of think jazz fusion sums it up. But really, session musician, that's probably the best thing that sums up what I do. You know, although, you know, is anyone really a session musician these days? I remember Adam Goldsmith talking about that and saying that Adam Goldsmith, the London-based studio guy, saying that there's nobody in the world anymore who makes their living purely from playing in studios, which is what a session musician is. Right, pretty much nobody. Like even guys like Tom Bukovac are out playing live, selling courses, teaching lessons, whatever, you know, everybody is. So DJ asks, so you like Jamiroquai, for example? I love Jamiroquai. In fact, this Thursday, I'm actually going to be filming an interview with my friend Rob Harris, who's a guitar player in Jamiroquai. And Rob, I plan to ask him about his old Japanese Fender that he's got. He's got a Squier JV series, which are highly regarded, and that's got for a lot of money now. And that's what he played on, a lot of those things. Not just Jamiroquai stuff, but he played that on like those Kylie Minogue songs, you know, I'm Spinning Around and things like that. That was Rob, you know, with this sort of stuff. Spinning. Whatever he played, something like that. It's got that funky octave type thing, you know. Yeah, so Rob and I have been trying for a while to get this to happen, but it's been busy. But it's looking like this Thursday is going to work quite good. So it'll be Thursday UK time, New Zealand Friday, and I'll post the video in the weekend. But yeah, we'll just have a chat. So what I was going to do is do a poll and just see what questions people wanted me to hit Rob up about, you know. He's one of my favorite guitar players, and he's a good friend. He's one of the coolest guys. I love Rob to bits. He's awesome. Yeah, and he's always given me the time of day, you know, and you can't say that with everyone, you know, and he does that for everyone. He's just a sweetheart, you know what I mean? So Hayden says, I don't even know where to start with funk. Well, I think probably a good place to start would be start with James Brown, right? And start with something kind of simple, you know, like, wow, no, that stuff's really simple. But let's take the Payback, which I played before, right? The chord's B flat minor, and the guitar part is just D flat and G, right? And then it goes up a semitone and back, right? But it's all about the rhythm. It's this hand, right? And the rhythm goes. The tricky bit in that is that down, up, down, up, down, and then the next accented note is an upstroke. So it's down, up accent, down accent, up accent, down, up, down, up, down. In fact, it sounds might even be bridge pickup. It's definitely not that, but it sounds like that. But I'll save your ears from that twang. And basically that's 90% of that song. And that's what I find where a lot of people go wrong with playing funk stuff, is that they just play too much. It just needs to stay on the groove. Because what happens is if you get that groove going, you get it sitting right in the pocket, and then you stay there for a length of time, what happens is it starts to become hypnotic to the listener. They don't even know, but they start moving their head like this. Have you seen that before? You know, where people are kind of grooving, but they don't know they're grooving? They just kind of, the groove has got them, and they're like this. You know, so... No, it's just those two strings. I'm kind of angling my pick down here. I'm using a different pick, actually, by the way. This is my buddy Mark Lettieri's pick. I don't know if you can see that. Come on, focus. He left a bunch of them around when he stayed one time when he was here in New Zealand. It's basically a Dunlop celluloid 1mm. I actually really like them. I think it So I've got a couple of his floating around. I've been really enjoying them. I was watching a really fantastic Dan Half interview yesterday with Vertex with Mason Marangella, and Dan was saying that he uses Fender mediums for most of his playing, the celluloid, and then the heavies for when he plays lead stuff. And I thought that's basically what this is. So and I way prefer it for rhythm stuff. This pick here is essentially like a medium. I think, yeah. It's the wrong material though. The celluloid is the thing. So yeah, I'm just hitting those two strings, and the top string is muted by my little finger. So I would start with something like that, like the Payback, or I feel good that I would now. I feel good. DJ says maybe with Earth, Wind and Fire. Yeah, Earth, Wind and Fire would be fantastic too. So some of the Earth, Wind and Fire parts are not as simple as people think, and a lot of people play those Earth, Wind and Fire parts wrong. For example, September. I've seen so many guitar players go. Which is fine. If you're playing in a band that has no piano player, nothing else, then you have to play those chords, right? But that's not actually how the guitar part goes. The guitar part in that song goes. Right, and then the chorus. I think it was Al McKay that played on that. You know, he was definitely an Earth, Wind and Fire for the longest of time. Fantastic guitar player, Al McKay. Earth, Wind and Fire would be a good place to start. James Brown, without a doubt. Start with James Brown. He's the godfather of soul, as they say, right? That is funk music. Learn those guitar parts. Try and perfect how they feel. Play along to the recordings. Try and match it. I'd also suggest Leo Nocentelli from the Meters. You know, a lot of the Meters stuff. He played really fantastic stuff that was kind of simple, but just in the pocket. Prince, of course, but Prince was not simple at all. You know, but listen to it, absorb it. Start there, and that may help, maybe. Ella Ray Feingold has some really fantastic stuff on her Instagram about how to play that stuff. I think she's got a Patreon too, and there's a lot of really good information in there, so that's another resource. Check out Rob Harris's channel. If you haven't been to Rob's stuff, he's an amazing funk guitar player. Those Jamiroquai things, you know, there's some really good guitar parts in that stuff. Cosmic Girl, for example, would be a good one to start with. Now, I know in the chorus it doesn't actually do that. I think it goes something. It does something like that. And the guitar is really buried in the chorus. The only bit you really hear is the... Saw an interesting thing of Julian Lage talking about playing Telecaster a lot nowadays. He was saying that now that he plays a Tele, he plays a lot more low notes. I thought that was fascinating, right? Because when you play like an archtop like he did, archtop guitars kind of, you want to play on the higher notes, right? Because the lower notes are mushy, especially with flat wound strings. So you tend to gravitate to soloing up here. You know, you tend to gravitate to up here, not... That would be mushy on can be mushy, right, and get lost in the mix. But he was saying that he plays a tally, he wants to play more lower notes, and the higher notes are the ones that have a different thing. Hayden says, really got to expand on my chord vocabulary as well. Yeah, that's a big one, I think. You know, the chord vocabulary is really important, because you can really dress up a simple part if you know how to, you know, some good chords, right? It's something that's just like a G7 vamp. Now, sometimes that's all it needs, right? You know, but an experienced player would probably go, well, if that's all it needs, that's what I'll do. But they'd also probably try and find something else to happen with it. You could do something like, you know, something like that. You know, like Steve Cropper's a really good one to check out for that kind of thing. You know, like Soul Man. I mean, that's a great guitar part. And then something like that. And then this. Isn't that cool? C power chord, C with an E in the bass, D. You know, so studying chords means that you kind of have all that kind of vocabulary in there. I find a really good place to start if you want to kind of expand on stuff like that. Just take something really simple, like in the key of G. We'll stay with G because that's the key I was in. Go G, C, and D. 1, 4, 5. Well, you can do that, but you can also go G, like a triad. What is a triad? B, D, G, and then right. How many different ways can you play that? But then those are kind of the obvious ones. But what about something like, right there I've got D, B, G. That's a G triad, right? But it's sort of more spread out. So D, B, G. And then C triad would be E, C, G. You can make some more interesting parts out of that. Any questions, people? I'm gonna have to go soon. I try and keep this to about an hour. I can't wait to get some strings on this guitar. I literally just picked it up, got home, where did I go? An hour ago. It's barely been the first time I've really plugged it in. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Every guitar makes you... If you haven't liked the video, hit like on the video because that really helps. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You know, all that kind of stuff really helps. I'll link the PayPal below if you want to help me pay for this guitar because I just slapped it on my credit card. So I don't have the money for it. But it's kind of what was needed. And then I've got some recording coming up where I'm going to need a Strat. Like a vintagey sounding Strat. Evolutionary Sleeper says, do you prefer high or low action? I prefer lower action, to be honest. This is kind of feeling a little high for me, but because of the 7 1/4 radius, it's probably going to need to be a little higher, but on a Strat that's fine. But I generally prefer lower action. Yeah, not to the point where you can't bend notes, right? Like, I wouldn't say it's low action, I wouldn't say it's high action. For me, if you kind of break the middle and you go, that's like a medium action, I like it just below that. Oh, thanks, Miss Stephanie. She says, hi, Nick, just liked and subbed. Thank you very much. Interesting, that Giacomo Tura video that came out yesterday had some very interesting comments this morning from people. Some people just, I mean, maybe I give people too much credit. You know, some people just completely miss the point. I even had one guy come on there and I was like fully attacking. He was like, right, he said that he had down-thumbed my video and he had reported it as spam because of what I'd said in that video. I was like, dude, like, nasty. Do you need to lie down? You need a hug? So of course, the dumb thing about stuff like that is I'm just going to block him. I don't have time for that bullshit. But I think the majority of people kind of got where I was coming from with that. It was not about attacking that guy. It was just about, what I was trying to look at was like, and this is something I thought about a lot, was like, what's going on around this? Like, why did it take a bass player to kind of raise this? And a bass player really had no connection to Giacomo. Right? Like, that to me is odd. Like, all these other guitar players must have seen him. All these other musicians who work with him, and yet they just all kept quiet. Maybe people generally are quite don't like confrontation, are non-confrontational. You know, I know I am. I don't like confrontation. But by the same token, I also don't back down. If someone's been an egg, then you know. And play another one. This is a Robin Ford style backing track in D minor. It's basically Help the Poor. It's pretty cool. I've played to this one before. You'll have heard it. What do you think of the guitar? You're going to see lots of it, I'm afraid. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Like, and when you think about it, it's these old Fenders and stuff. They're pretty kind of plain looking guitars. If you asked a non-musician, they'd probably just look at it and go. But this was interesting. Same with my Martin, right? My Martin guitar. You look at that and it looks... Oh, come on. It looks like the most plain instrument you've ever seen. It's like every acoustic guitar is kind of the same. Thanks, Miss Stephanie. Yeah, she says people can be so mean on here. I'm a musician too and had trolls. Best to ignore them. It's funny, isn't it? I think I've seen everybody have trolls, right? Like, even people that you think... You know, I remember when Dirty Loops kind of hit on this scene. You remember those guys? And they had some fantastic videos they put a lot of work into. The playing was awesome. Like, some people down-thumbed it. You just go, like, why? Anyway, this is Robin Ford style. Khalil, how are you, man? Oh man, I'm glad you like it. I think it's great. There's something too about guitars that have had some years on this. This thing is 1994, so it's like 30 years old. What is it? 94, 30, 32, I guess. So it's younger than me. I think with a Strat, what I like about Strats is make you play a certain way. I want to play the blues when I play this guitar. So let's do that. Let's play blues. Robin Ford thing. and the track cuts out. I've played the track before, and there's a little glitch in the middle of it. It's so annoying. I don't know why that's in there. I am struggling with this guitar a little bit. It feels so different, and I need to get my strings on it, which I'd normally use, and get it set up. But it's mostly there. Hayden says that outside playing is something I really want to learn. I don't really get it, but when I hear it, it sounds so good. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I started playing more of that kind of stuff, right? Oh, thanks, Miss Stephanie. I'm glad you like the sound of it. Yeah, I mean, one of the simplest ways to get playing outside if you want to get into that sort of stuff. You know, if the keys in... This is a Larry Carlton thing that I got from him. If you watch those videos of him back in the day, the ones where he's playing that Valley Arts Stratocaster, the white one, he just talks about playing the instructional things. D minor, but play C sharp minor over it. Right? Every note's going to be out, right? And creates tension. The key to it is how you resolve. And if I remember right, I think he shows it with chords doing that. Right, like that kind of thing. So see, there I like deliberately just plays C sharp minor resolving in. Miss Stephanie says, I wish I could play notes better. I'm fine with chords, but struggle to play all these great guitarists. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, the whole soloing thing, isn't it? Like, I think the best approach to start with, if I can suggest this, is start by just playing melodies, right? Like, too often I think we get caught up in playing licks and phrases and shredding and all this sort of stuff. But just start by trying to play a good melody for whatever that is. If you caught the very beginning of this, you'll see that I played What's Going On, right? Like, learn the melody, the vocal melody. You know, just like work on playing that against those chords, and so many things will come from the melody, right? If you learn the melody to tunes. What's another example? So all I did there was I took the melody of O When the Saints, and the first time I played it, I tried to just play it like pretty plain, and then I added in some extra chords, and then I started like improvising around it. And it's a good way to get soloing, right? It's just learn a melody and then try and embellish on that melody. I play a lot with a harmonica player, a guy called Neil Billington, really fantastic harmonica player. He doesn't really know about theory stuff, and we talk about stuff from time to time, but the whole way he developed his playing was playing along to recordings, picking out the melody, and then developing around it. Sounds great. I'm going to have to go in a minute, folks. Hayden says, like this Saints come much in anything. I couldn't add chords like you're doing. Start simple though, right? If the melody goes... You got a C note on the top there against an F chord. So try and find where you can play it. You could go... But that doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes more sense to go. That note there is a G against the G minor chord. So you could do that, but it probably makes more sense to go. That's an F. I'm just playing an F triad. At that point it becomes a B flat against the B flat chord, so I'm just playing triad. Start with simple like that. I think a lot of times with music people complicate things too much. You know, the best stuff comes from just simple, like always, right? Unless you're Ingve Malmsteen, then it's like it's all about being over the top on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like that guy just, it's fantastic because it does what he does, right? He just exudes this kind of craziness, and that's his angle. But generally, I would say just start simple, you know. Hey, thanks so much for joining me, folks. I'm going to have to split. It's been an hour and 4 minutes, so these things fly by. It goes quick. I hope you dig the new guitar. You'll be seeing lots more of it. I'm really liking it. I think it has a lot to offer as an instrument, so especially for someone doing what I do, you know, working musician, session musician, all that sort of stuff, but also do my own music. If you want to check out some of my music, my album Reamped is on Bandcamp. I'll link it below. It's free. The main thing is I just want people to listen to it. Buy me a coffee's link below, all that kind of stuff. PayPal. Thanks for joining me, people. I really appreciate you and all support. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Cheers.